So, we talked about new technology, but let's discuss some of the dangers involved. One of them you may have noticed, we kept running into it, is kind of an information overload. Diba? With so much freely available information, where do you even start? Right? What are you going to look at? Did you know every day there are 720,000 hours of video uploaded to YouTube? Every day. 500 hours every minute of new videos going onto YouTube. Right? You couldn't watch it all if you wanted to. Right? It's not possible. There's just so much information out there. Right? So you've got to kind of curate these things and go through them, separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. It's important that you don't believe everything that you read or see or hear on the internet. Right? There's so much out there that's just fake, right? Or it's a lie, right? If we were going and talking about, theological videos or something, if you wanted to go on YouTube and find some things, for your spiritual enrichment, you've got to be careful. Because for every good video out there that's speaking the truth, there's going to be 9 or 10 videos that aren't, right? Or they might have a lot of truth, but it's missing some, right? Or it's got a little extra, something there that shouldn't be there. And that's going to be the case with just about anything, right? You've got to be discerning in that. You've got to say, okay, what's right here and what's not. That takes time to develop that kind of skill, right? Some things are kind of obvious, so that's not right. But some things you might seem obvious at the time just because of your past experience, but you learn a few more things and you think, oh, wait, maybe that's actually the way it is. That's the way it happens sometimes. So you really have to be careful when you're going through these things because there's so much, right? And you might find a YouTuber or somebody that you like and you really get into watching their videos and learning a lot of stuff or reading their books. And that's one of the things we warn about in our Jesus Man of the Bible class, right? Commentary, which is what a YouTube video is going to be, right? Or just human opinion. And subject to all human frailties, right? And so if you watch those things and you say, well, I'm going to accept that because I like that, right? Or I like this guy because he's funny or he seems very well thought out, right? Well, is it true or not, right? You got to be careful about those things. And there's nothing that I can really say, there's no foolproof method, right, for really knowing truth from fiction, except you've got to go back and compare it to the scripture, right? So don't let the stuff that you're watching and consuming, don't let that kind of water down the pure milk of the word, right? That's sustaining you, right? Go back to the word of God, right? That's our sword. We don't want to set that down and replace it with something else, right? It's like here we've got this weapon from God, but I kind of like that weapon over there a little bit better, right? Well, it might be useful in some fights, right? But it might turn on you at the wrong time, right? So be careful about that. The other side is that there's a lot of temptations on the internet, right? And all those temptations now lie in the palm of our hand, where it used to be very difficult to go find some things, right? You want to go get into trouble, you had to go looking for it, right? But now things will just you'll just stumble upon them, right? There's all sorts of different ways you can get addicted to things, right? You can cause all sorts of problems in your life, in your relationships, marriages, friendships, all these things. You can kind of shipwreck your career. There's a lot of stuff that can happen if you go the wrong way on the internet. One of the biggest ones is pornography, right? Now, hopefully, you've managed to avoid a lot of that in your life, or avoid it completely. But I hate to say that the internet is full of it, right? I recall, I don't know, maybe over 20 years ago, there was a joke video that was going around that basically said the internet is for porn, right? That was the joke. Because there's so much of it. And that's why a lot of people got on it. And it's easy to get sucked into that. And once you get desensitized to how bad it is, you can get drawn in, right? Just like so many things. And so it takes effort to avoid those things. Especially you get on some of these sites that just, it's throwing you video after video or post after post, picture after picture. And if you linger on it for too long or tap the wrong thing, they'll say, oh, they like that. We'll show them that again, right? So if you see anything remotely objectionable, it might be a good idea to click those 3 little dots at the top and say, don't show me anything like this, right? Or mute this person, right? That way the system can figure out, oh, they don't actually want to see that, right? Because if you don't do that, it's just going to keep coming, right? And you don't know what might actually be. And if you get on there and you try to comment and you say, oh no, you shouldn't do this. Well, guess what? That's going to make it even worse, right? Probably whoever's doing it is a robot anyway, so don't worry about it, right? You can report it if it's against the terms of service or something like that. But watch out for those things, right? And it's also might be important to be aware for the people around you, right? Or if you're a parent, for your kids, right? That they don't fall into those kinds of things. Because again, it's a big temptation. And it's just sitting there, right? All of the access to it is not very hard to get, right? And again, there's a lot of it that's free. There's some of it you could pay. And you could do all sorts of terrible things, right? You could see all sorts of horrible things that we don't even want to talk about, right? But that's a big, big problem. Another one is just endless scrolling, right? Have you ever gotten into this, right? You just on your phone, right? You hold it with this hand and you just go like that. Or maybe you can use your thumb if you just want to do something else with the other hand, right? Even when you're getting kind of tired, right? That's what happens. I don't know, that happens a lot on Facebook, right? Maybe you have all your friends and you say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, right? Not interesting, not interesting, add. Wait. No, add, right? Wait, an ad for something that I want. Yes. Oh, okay, keep on going, right? Maybe you hold down on it, open that in a new tab. Okay, keep going, right? But you just, how long do you spend scrolling it? Right? Or if you get on YouTube and you click that shorts thing, or the reels on Facebook, or Instagram, or Twitter, X, if you start watching a video, I think on X, it will play the video twice and then go to the next video. Right? Automatically. Yeah, X is Twitter. Right? They changed the name to X when Elon Musk bought it. YouTube Shorts will just play the same video over and over and over again, right? So you kind of do want to scroll to the next one. They make you scroll to the next one or listen to the same guy. But you just go, right? And maybe it's great, right? Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's bad, right? Get that out of here, right? You kind of. I remember I watched YouTube for a long time. I've watched a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of great things you can learn on there. And a lot of the videos, the longer videos, people are, they're targeted to a certain audience, right? And it's more like TV. They're not using bad language. They're doing things. It's for a curated environment, right? But you get on shorts, you don't know what you're going to see, right? I've heard more curse words, right, in just the first 5 seconds of a video, right? And you already heard it. You got to keep going now, right? What do you know? It's there because people don't care, right? That for a lot of the world, that's not a big deal, right? But are we sensitive to that? Are we letting ourselves be desensitized to that, right? And you might think, well, I'm just going to watch a couple of videos, right? And then it's 2 hours later. What happened to my life, right? 2 hours? 3 hours? I was supposed to go to sleep. I've got to be up at 6. Why is it 3 and I'm still on my phone, right? That's not good, right? I just woke up and I had to go to the bathroom. Why did I pick up my phone, right? It's a danger, right? It's always lurking there, right? Or have you heard of not just this kind of, but doom scrolling? That's where people just go and they just are reading bad news, right? Just because there's a lot of news that's bad out there. And it's just, bad news is interesting to people. It makes them react, right? And it's true, right? There are some websites that only have good news. Did you know that? There's a website called the Good News Network. You can go there and it's only good news. But they don't post a lot, right? So there's only so much good news. You go there like, oh, I already saw that one, right? Where bad news is just infinite, right? But yeah, you get really depressed, right? Scrolling through, seeing all this stuff, right? It's a big time waster, right? Because it's just showing you what it thinks you might want to see, what other people want to see, right? What's popular. You see some viral trend. You can suddenly want to do something that you never thought about wanting to do in your entire life, right? You saw some guy do it on the internet and it's dumb and you're like, but I'm going to try it too, right? I could record that dance, whatever it is, right? And what happened, right? That can be a big drain on your spiritual life. If you spend 2 hours scrolling, how much of that were you praying? Probably none, right? Now maybe you saw some terrible disaster and you stopped to pray for those people, right? Sometimes you scroll by and there's a picture that says, hey man, you've been scrolling a long time, just take a break, right? And you're like, wow. No, that's not from YouTube. That's not from Twitter or Facebook. That's from some kind person that knows that you've been scrolling too long. And so they put it out there for people to see. And then you think, oh, keep going. Or you say, oh yes, okay, and you put your phone down and you walk away. Right? You got to be careful. The other thing is gaming, right? Entertainment of all kinds. It can be super addictive, right? And this isn't just limited to your smartphone, right? It could be on the computer or a console or whatever it might be, right? This is not necessarily new, right? It's just new now because we all have access to it right there, right? And they've got all these free games. And a lot of the games now, they're literally made to keep you coming back to the game, right? They try to make it seem like you can only play so much, right? Oh, no. You only get so much energy today, right? You can only play this, and then you have to stop unless you pay us money, right? If you pay us, we'll let you play again, right? Oh, okay, right? I was almost there. I almost got to the next level, right? I'll pay a little bit. Or I'll buy this or that, right? Or, if I sign in every day, if I just get on and tap the button, then if I do that for a week, then I'll get some extra coins, right? I'll get this reward, right? All these little things just getting you to come back and check all this stuff, right? And what do you get out of it? Nothing, right? Really nothing. Well, you say, well, it's fun. Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that are fun, right? We used to do a lot of fun things, right? But now what are we doing? We're just tapping the screen, right? And some of it you're doing alone. Some of it you can do as a group, right? You can get on and play a game with your friends. And that's maybe better, right? Maybe not, but maybe it is, right? There's ups and downs, pros and cons. You know, some of it, if you're really good, and it's the right game, you might be able to make a lot of money, right? It could be your career playing a game, right? And then it's like any other job, except you just get paid to have fun. And maybe that's cool, but there's only going to be like 100 people in the world doing that, right? That are really actually able to make the money. So you're not going to be that guy, right? More often than not, it's just going to lead to problems in your life, right? You get addicted to it. You're supposed to be working. Well, I'll just play a little bit, right? Or I'll just go back. I'll watch this one more video, right? Or I'll just do this one thing. And then, you know, your kids are calling. Oh, I'm a little busy, right? Your wife is like, what are you doing, right? Well, you know, you say, well, it's not pornography. No, that's not the answer, right? It's still bad, right? It's not that bad, but it's still bad, right? And, you know, what happens when we do things that we know we're not supposed to be doing? Sometimes you hide it, right? You ever had that situation? Someone comes in, oh, no, I wasn't doing that, right? Or you really want to play something or watch something and you kind of disappear in another room for a while. And it's because we're carrying it in our pocket, right? I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. 20 minutes later, they're knocking on the door. You still in there? What's going on? Oh, man. Oops. Right? You got to be careful, right? And the thing is, these guys are literally trying to get your brain to go. And that's why on Facebook you go and you see a lot of things you don't want to see because you just scroll past that, right? And it trains you just to keep scrolling because at some point you're going to see, there's going to be something good, right? You're going to find something that you like. And then it's a reward. But it's totally random, right? And that just kind of reinforces your behavior. It's like training a dog or a cat, right? You've got to just reinforce it. You know, when you first get on, everything's good. It's great, right? But now, most of it's not. It's only rarely you find something, oh, that's wonderful, right? Most of it, you're just, no, right? That's all planned. That's not by accident, right? That's not because there isn't a whole world of fun, interesting things out there. It's because they're trying to get you hooked in so that you'll keep coming back, so that you'll keep watching, right? You get Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever. Well, we're just going to watch the whole season this week, right? You can do that. You know, when I was a kid, you couldn't do that, right? You wanted to watch TV, you had to be there in front of the TV at the right time, right? And if you were late, you missed it, right? If you had to go to the bathroom, you better hurry out during the commercial and get back, right? You're going to miss it, right? It was an event. We're all going to watch the same thing, right? But now, everybody on their own screen, you could have the whole family can have their own screen. They're all watching their own thing. Maybe with their headphones in, so they're not bothering anybody else, right? Nobody knows what anybody else is watching, right? Or one person's holding the phone and everybody's like crowding behind them, right? It's fun, you know. Maybe we see that here, you know, down on the couch. One person's got the phone and all the kids have climbed behind them, right? To watch what they're doing, right? And some of this stuff is great. It's educational. Some of it's not that educational, you know? Or it would be educational, but, you know, there's only so many times you can learn to count to 5, right? For little kids, they know already. They don't need to watch that one again, right? But they like it, right? Some of it's just ridiculous. There's just silliness on there, right? It's funny, right? But what are we getting out of it? Are we getting something good and valuable out of it? Or is it just wasting time, just pulling us away from the more important things in life, right? And in this endless stream of content, what do? Right? And again, that's not new, right? Anybody have cable television? I had that. Not as a kid. We had broadcast TV, and you had to go and click the TV to the next channel, right? But then we one day got cable, and then it's the middle of the night, and you're just changing through the channels, right? There's got to be something good on, right? And like the show only changes like on the hour, right? So if you change now, you're just going to be in the middle of something, right? But you're just looking, right? I got 50 channels. Something good has got to be on, right? You're just searching, right? So that's not super new. We've had that for 50 years. But that's new for really the human experience, right? But in some ways, again, it's not. We're always looking for something to connect, right? We're looking for something to enjoy. But now, there's so many ways to get that enjoyment from the world, right? And forget about turning to the Word or taking time to pray, right? Those things easily fall by the wayside if we're not very intentional about what we do, right? And sometimes with the way the internet is, we're watching these things, you might feel more connected to a stranger on the other side of the world than you do to the people in your own house, right? You might know more about that guy on YouTube down in Australia than you know about your neighbor, right? Why? You're never going to talk to that guy, right? Maybe you can send him a message in the comments, right? But your neighbor's right there, right? You don't know anything about them? That's the way life is today. Maybe they don't want to know anything about you because they'd rather be doing something else too. So in some ways, the internet brings us together. And yet in other ways, it pulls us apart and separates us, puts a barrier there. So that's a big deal. On the other hand, and like gaming and addictions like that, I think they're predominantly happening to guys, young men, right? But social media can still be addictive. It can still cause problems. And there's a lot of young people, especially young ladies, on something like Instagram, right? Being on that can be great. You can learn things, you can share things, but if you're not careful, if you're there too much, if you have the wrong attitude, or if you're kind of, you can see all these curated, perfect things, and it can make you kind of doubt yourself, right? Why don't I look like that, right? Well, because you don't have the right filter turned on. That's why you don't look like that, right? Or, oh, my house isn't like that, right? Now, things can happen like that in real life too, right? But it's a lot more rare, right? You have to actually go into other people's homes and meet them and go to different places in different countries and say, well, this is different here, right? You can't just flip and be like, oh man, I feel so bad about, that can develop envy, right? Or self-doubt, anxiety, depression, all those things can happen, right? Or again, we talked about, there's, this silly trend, right? Well, there's also, what's the word? It's, things go viral, but it can be kind of a social contagion. That's the word I was looking for, right? Sometimes You see something happening, some issue that's being talked about, right? That nobody ever cared about before 5 minutes ago. But suddenly, it becomes a trend, right? And everybody starts talking about it, right? Suicide is a big issue for a lot of people. It's a serious thing, right? But a lot of people would never consider it until they see somebody online talking about all their problems and talking about their, suicide attempts or something like that. And you say, oh, wow. And then it puts it into your mind, right? And the problem is, it could come into your mind from anywhere, from anybody in the world, right? The internet, again, connects us to some of the best people in the world, but it also connects us to some of the most evil people in the world and some of the most broken people in the world in very bad ways, right? So we have to be very careful about that because it can come into your life. It can come into the lives of your friends and your family and you don't even know, right? Maybe they get swept up in something, right? There's online predators out there trying to take advantage of people, right? Get them to send inappropriate pictures of themselves or, go meet them somewhere and they get kidnapped, right? It can happen. There was a lady a few years ago. She was a mom. She was kind of worried about her kids and the internet, and she made an agreement with some people to try something. And so she kind of did some makeup and tried to make herself look younger, and she pretended to be like a 14 or 15-year-old girl. And she got on Instagram and started posting certain pictures of herself. Nothing, bad. But all of a sudden she's getting these DMs about meeting up somewhere or doing this. It didn't take 10 minutes before people were out to get her, right? And so it's like, you've got to be really careful about that, right? You interact with the wrong person, right? There's a lot of things going on that we might not think about, right? Because, people have invented so many ways of doing evil. You might be a little naive, right? So there's a lot of dangers out there in the world. And then, of course, there's all sorts of divisive content, misinformation, right? Now, misinformation is a tricky term for me, right? You may have been on Facebook and seen something that's been fact-checked, right? Or if you watched YouTube at all, even today, if someone mentions COVID in a YouTube video, it's going to have a little bar underneath their thing that says, oh, you should consult the World Health Organization about COVID. And it's like, okay, I don't think we need to do that anymore. Why is that bar still there, right? There is bad information out there, right? And that's a concern, right? But the problem is, who determines what information is good and bad, right? Some of it wasn't actually so bad. It was good. But the authorities thought it was bad at the time, right? Other things are just divisive, right? There are literally people out there that are just trying to make people angry, right? They're just trolling. They're just trying to get people to get upset. Some of them aren't even real people at all, right? They're just computer programs, just bots out there just replying to stuff to try to get engagement, right? Or for whatever purpose they might be there, right? Why does somebody have that? Are they making money off of it, or are they literally paying money to run these things just to make people upset, right? Some people are psychopaths, and they get joy out of that, right? This is the kind of world that we live in, right? And remember, falsehood, not good. Division, factions, those are works of the flesh. These are things that we're supposed to avoid. Yet, when we get online, we're probably going to be surrounded by them, right? So how are we going to deal with that, right? Let me see here. All right. Those are some dangers. There's another one. And this one is about AI. Excuse me. If you turn to the last page, well, not the last page, but page 13, all right, there's a new technology on the market these days, right? It's artificial intelligence. Now, we've had artificial intelligence of a lot of different, can mean a lot of different things. We got a new kind called a large language model. Have you heard of ChatGPT? Right? I asked ChatGPT to help me out with this seminar, okay? I was running a little low on time today, and so I wanted to add a section. I hadn't written it, so I said, hey, ChatGPT, give me a few paragraphs about how the spiritual impact of AI, right, and how it can be used for good and evil. I put that in, and this was its response, right? So I'll read it to you. It's in the outline. The advent of artificial intelligence marks a new era of technological progress, but it also carries profound spiritual implications. As AI becomes increasingly integrated into daily life, it reshapes how we think, connect, and even worship. While AI offers remarkable tools for spiritual growth and ministry, it also raises critical concerns about human dignity, morality, and the nature of truth. This section itself was partially crafted with the assistance of AI, underscoring its pervasive role in shaping human expression. AI has the potential to be a powerful ally in spiritual pursuits. Bible study applications use AI to analyze text, suggest interpretations, and provide resources that deepen understanding. Translation tools bring the Word of God to unreached people groups, fulfilling the Great Commission in unprecedented ways. Virtual prayer apps, chatbots for pastoral care, sermon writing assistants expand the reach of ministries to people who may otherwise feel isolated or disconnected. These technologies can inspire faith, foster community, and equip believers to grow spiritually in the digital age. However, the spiritual dangers of AI cannot be ignored. At its worst, AI can become an idol, subtly replacing human reliance on God with dependence on algorithms and machines. The pursuit of convenience and efficiency can eclipse the call to spiritual disciplines like prayer, meditation, and scripture reading. Furthermore, AI-driven platforms often prioritize engagement over truth, creating echo chambers that promote division, misinformation, and confusion, forces that are antithetical to the unity and clarity offered by God's Word. The ethical dilemmas surrounding AI also carry spiritual weight. Autonomous systems and AI-driven decisions often lack moral accountability, reducing complex human values to mere calculations. This mechanistic approach to life risks diminishing the inherent dignity of each person as created in the image of God. Moreover, as AI enables deep fake technology and pervasive surveillance, it challenges notions of truth, privacy, and trust, values central to healthy relationships and a thriving spiritual life. Ultimately, the spiritual impact of AI depends on how it's used. As believers, we are called to approach this technology with discernment and intentionality, ensuring that it remains a tool to serve humanity rather than a force that controls or dehumanizes us. By grounding our engagement with AI in prayer, scripture, and community accountability, we can navigate this frontier in a way that honors God and nurtures our souls. What do you think? Interesting? That's pretty amazing. Computer just spit that out, right?
Sounds very human.
Sounds very human, doesn't it? That's basically because it's scanned in like so much human writing, billions and billions of pages of it on all different topics, and it worked out the patterns of what word comes next, right? If this word's there, what's going to come next? And so it just this kind of probability, right? That's how it works, sort of. It's just a big matrix of numbers. It says it's a believer, right? and that it can honor God and nurture its soul. Right? Now the thing is, you say, well, that's just a computer program. Right? It doesn't have a soul. Does it? Probably not. Right? But the thing is, this stuff is kind of new. Right? It's developing very quickly. This software is like hardly a year or two old. Right? And it's able to do that. Right? And they're putting out new versions of it every week, every month. And it can make images. You can say, give me a picture of a guy sitting by a lake. Boop. Right? Give me a picture like on Instagram of a lady, a selfie. You can ask for like what particular camera you want them to have used and what lighting and all, and it will just generate an image that might be exactly what you want, but is probably not. But some of them, you can't tell the difference between something somebody took on their phone and this AI-generated image. Sometimes it's pretty easy to tell because they have like 10 fingers, right? Or they got something weird is happening. But they're getting better at that, right? Interestingly, I think if you ask it to show you like a clock, like an old school analog clock with a certain time on it, it's going to say 10:10 because all the pictures that it scanned in of clocks, the hands are set at 10 and 10, or 10 and 2, right? It just hasn't really learned how clocks work, right? It just knows what pictures of clocks look like. And so it's good at some things and bad at others, right? But it's getting better and better. They can generate videos now. It's like a whole 10-minute video. Just generates it. It looks like they shot it in a movie studio, right? But it's all fake. Now it's based on other bits of videos and things. It's been trained in some way, right? But it's going to get to the point, not very long from now, where you're probably going to have to you're going to have trouble telling the difference between what's real and what's AI, right? And of course, if you just go on and say, "Oh, give me a picture of this," it might be bad, right? But if you give it a picture, right? Like if you get Photoshop right now from Adobe, right? It's pretty expensive, but if you had Photoshop, they have a generative AI feature. So you can just take a picture that you already have and say, yeah, this part, I want you to change that with something else, right? And it will change that part of the picture to what you want it to be, right? And if you work with it a little bit, you can do some amazing things, right? You can make it look like whoever you want was in that picture, or whoever you want was in that video, right? One famous thing in the world of AI video is Will Smith eating spaghetti, right? Will Smith, the actor. There's a video of him from the very early years of him eating spaghetti, and it's terrible. It's really scary because he's really weird, and the spaghetti is like going through his face, and it's bad. It's really bad, right? It doesn't look real at all, right? But then a year later, it's like, what? That looks like Will Smith eating spaghetti. And people just keep making more videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And the latest one, you would have known, right? Except why would there be a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti? Like just him in this picture perfect environment, right? But that's what it is. You can't tell that it's fake. And it can do voices, right? There's things now, again, danger, right? With a few seconds of your voice, somebody can feed that into AI and have it say whatever they want, just like you said it, right? So, if you get a phone call that says, "Oh, Mom, you need to come help pick me up," right? I'm at such and such. That might not be your daughter, right? actually check, call her back before you go there or before you send money, right? Because all they needed was 10 seconds of a video of her on Instagram talking to make her say whatever they want, right? That's the power of this stuff, right? And that's kind of a whole new world. We've never been in that world before, where any stranger anywhere in the world could pretend to be you or someone that you know. And they could make it look like you did terrible things, blackmail, like ruining your reputation. All those things can happen, right? We're getting to the point where you watch a video on the news. Did that really happen? Or did they just make that up? Now, of course, they always could have done that, right? People think the moon landing was fake, right? We didn't go to the moon, that they recorded that in a studio and did all this stuff. It would have been cheaper just to go to the moon, guys, right? But now, with these computers, you can do so much. It's scary, right? And then they've got robots that move around like people, or dogs, or whatever, right? But when the robots start walking around like people, and looking like people, and talking like people, that's going to create some problems, right? It's creating some issues, right? And, it's going to bring some questions. It's going to start some difficult questions, right? They're already kind of starting, When will this thing ever become conscious? Is it self-aware, right? Can it become alive? You might say, no, it's just a computer, right? It can't do that. It's just ones and zeros, right? We just pulled the plug, right? Well, that's a philosophical debate, though, right? Because how can you prove that it's not alive, right? This is a question that Christians might have to answer, right? Kind of get involved with. You might say, well, the Bible says, we're made in the image of God, right? That's what separates us from the animals, right? And separates us from the machines, right? But somebody might say, well, but how far does it go of being made in the image of God, right? Can we make something else in our own image? How alive can it be? I don't know. That's a deep question, right? It's got a lot of implications. It's interesting. We all these things are happening. I think back to the story of Noah. Actually, not the story of Noah. The Tower of Babel, after Noah, right? They're building this tower. If you go back to Genesis chapter 10, and God says, if as one people speaking the same language they've begun to do this, then nothing will be impossible for them. Now, I don't know exactly what people thought that meant in the past, but the further we go along, it seems like, is really maybe nothing going to be impossible for us? One of the wonderful things about this AI stuff is that it can translate for you, right? We did this earlier. Somebody sent a message on Facebook in some very poorly written Tagalog, very badly spelled. But you tell ChatGPT, can you tell me what this says in English? And it knows. It knows, right? How did it know, right? And did you know I did this last year. I asked ChatGPT to write me a poem in Cebuano about the rain. And it did it, right? It was amazing. Where did it learn that language? I don't know, right? But somebody fed it in a bunch of Cebuano stuff, so it knows. And it can translate between the two. I don't know how it did it. It's a mystery, right? But it can translate. But we got a lot of things going on in the world, right? What's going to be the end, right? how far do we go? How far do the creation powers that we have go? Right? That's a tough question. Now, I'm not saying, don't say, oh, Clint said that, we're making living things. No, I didn't say that, right? I'm just saying that's a question that people are going to have to deal with, right? Humanity is in for some changes, right? And then, all these questions of human dignity, right? Can you have a relationship with a robot, right? People already have like an AI girlfriend, right? Or an AI boyfriend. They can chat with them all day long, right? The funny thing is when your AI girlfriend breaks up with you, right? Because the thing is, it's trained to kind of act like a real person, right? So it's not just like your robot slave that's going to do whatever you want, right? It's like, no, I'm done, right? It happens though, right? But again, that's something that we have to deal with, right? You're going to be online. You're talking to people, right? Somebody somebody at school, right? Might have some AI obsession, right? And you might have to help them, like, get away from the machines and interact with real people again, right? Because it's another thing that can separate us. Or it can be a tool for good, right? And help you communicate, right? And help translate some of the feelings that somebody might have, right? If you're not very good at writing, not very good at expressing yourself, you can kind of say, can you say this in a different way? And it will kind of expand on it. You can be like, oh yeah, that's how I feel, right? That might help somebody, right? They have AI counselors, AI doctors, They feed in the medical diagnosis information. And it's actually better than the doctors sometimes. Because it's subjective. It's looking at all the data and saying, okay, this is what it is. Where the doctor might have kind of a preconceived idea, right? They might be biased against this or that, right? But the AI is actually more accurate about it, right? Or seeing really subtle changes in the thing. There's so many things that it can be useful for, but so many dangers. So as we wrap up tonight, I want to give some final tips. Or should I save those for tomorrow? I might save those for tomorrow because it's already after 8. What do you guys think? You want to be here for all the time it takes me to go through the last page? Or we'll save that for tomorrow? We'll save it for tomorrow. I didn't realize we'd gone so far. Thank you guys very much for joining us tonight. Yeah. Come back tomorrow. You have the tips already if you just want to read them. But we'll go through them. We'll have a little bit more. I'll try to answer some questions if you guys have them. If you don't want to ask me, you could ask ChatGPT. But just be careful with the answer. Yes, and it tells you that. It tells you, like, AI can be wrong. Please check your information. Okay, it will just make things up that are not anywhere in the world, right? So be aware of that. Thank you guys very much. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow.